Everyone, my name is Alan Neal, and I'm with Infotech Research Group here at Infotech Live. And I'm really excited to be joined by Scott Hayes, the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Rimini Street. Scott, how are we doing today?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
There you go.
Scott, I'm watching the Rimini Street booth. I'm seeing so much activity there. The question I want to make sure I ask is, first and foremost, tell me a little bit more about Rimini Street and the services that you guys offer.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had a great amount of traffic, and this has been a great conference so far. And what we talk to our prospective clients about is the opportunity to explore an alternative for software support. We're talking about enterprise software, big, complex ERP systems, CRM, HCM systems, where traditionally they've bought their licenses for the software from the vendor, and then they pay annually for support from the vendor. And so back in 2005, we came up with this model where, wait a minute, those are separate contracts, and we could provide a different style, a different level of support than the vendors did. And so we basically gave them an alternative that has certain aspects about it that are very appealing to some companies that we can maybe get into, but basically that's it. Then over the years, in addition to support, we've added managed services, professional services, for custom and bespoke projects, interoperability solutions, security solutions, monitoring solutions, and all of that is to, the daily care and feeding of complex, customized software.
No, that is absolutely awesome. One question I have is, whenever I talk to members, they always ask about how the partner is going to provide business value. So I want to really understand around business value when it comes to Rimini Street and the services that you guys provide. Can you give me an example of a client and how you've really driven business outcomes for that client?
Yeah. Business value is a very important conversation that we have with all of our clients, and we're basically vendor agnostic. We want them to get where they're going. In fact, we've just come up with a new tagline recently that's in our booth, and it says, "We'll get you there." We just want to know where you are, where you're going, and want to help you get there. So how does the value come out? It comes out in 2 or 3 different ways. First, we charge less than the vendors do for annual maintenance. So just take that, whatever it is, $1 million a year for a maintenance fee going to the vendor, and cut that in half. Okay, so immediately there's some great savings. And we've calculated over the years that at this point, we've saved the totality of our clients about $8 billion. So that's meaningful numbers. But what we really see is then that frees them up to have, to self-fund innovation. We've been hearing at the conference how difficult it is for IT leaders to find the budget, right, to do something new and different that the business absolutely needs, something that will help with profitability, with growth, with competitive advantage, when they're typically spending about 90% of their IT budget to keep the lights on with their existing systems, right? So we want to change the math there, right? Reduce that big spend on enterprise software support. And then secondly, there's a freedom element here in the value that we offer. Typically, with vendor support, you're on a certain version of the software that was published on a certain date, and the vendor's going to offer full support for that for some number of years. And during that time, they're issuing new versions of software, and they want to keep moving their clients forward. So at some point, some of the vendors will say, our mainstream support for this version stops on this date.
Cool.
That has a real implication for clients. And when we're talking about highly customized software, even going from version to version, that upgrade process can be extremely expensive. So if a client's spending $1 million a year on that vendor support, they're probably having to budget about $400,000 a year for these upgrades. So what we offer is that we'll provide support for the existing version for up to 15 years. So that value is freedom. But you asked about, give me an example of a client that's doing this. So we have a client in Sweden called Green Cargo. And they are rail transportation, sustainable rail transportation, for all kinds of industries. And the CIO there, a gentleman named Ingo Paas, was honored with the CIO of the Year in Sweden just a couple of years ago. And he's taken advantage of our model to, one, free him up from that vendor-dictated roadmap, kind of that hamster wheel of upgrades, number one. Number two, free up spend that he can then redirect into the innovations that his client, his customer base needs, his business unit leaders need, right? And third, and this is the interesting piece that I loved reading about from him, is that his tech team is now freed up from some of the ongoing operational activities that they typically had to do with their software, so that they can turn their attention. His tech people are learning new capabilities, low code, no code, AI, and turning their own careers into forward-looking motion for that business, right? So that whole idea that you can reduce spend, gain flexibility, and do something different without changing your IT budget, that's pretty unique.
Yeah, that is absolutely unique. I think it lends to what we were talking about at Infotech Live before, becoming a trusted operator and innovator, being a partner to the business, and doing it for the same or less cost. That is a huge difference.
No.
So when someone makes that big purchase, the software provider will say, we can provide this support. Can you help us summarize sort of what the true differentiators are for Rimini Street when they're providing that support instead?
Yeah, there's a few things. And I get an opportunity this afternoon to present some of this in one of the sessions, so that's great that we got that opportunity to meet with people and talk with them about that sort of secret sauce or magic that we bring to it. I mentioned that these systems, big ERP systems from Oracle and SAP, are typically highly customized. And typically a vendor will not provide support for those customizations. You know, it's a really good selling point of how configurable and customizable the solution is. And I'll tell you, businesses have run with that. So they have millions of lines of code of customization, but when they call the vendor for support, the vendor typically is going to require that whatever issue is being called in has to be replicated and produced on a non-customized system, right? Because they kind of want to figure out, well, was this our fault, right? Or is it something y'all did, right? So that's one of the first differences for us, is that we provide support for the customizations as well. So during the onboarding process, our engineers actually dig into what those customizations are, so that if something comes up, we'll take care of it. You know, that's really part of who you are and what makes you unique. Why shouldn't that be supported? So that's one of the ways. I mentioned another way already, that we'll support existing versions for 15 years. And a third way, and this is really what I'm getting into today in my session, is the responsiveness. We've typically found that organizations build up an internal team to support their applications as much as they can, short of changing code, inside their organization, because it's often slow going getting the support you need from the vendor. We really turn that upside down. So we provide all of our clients a 10-minute service level agreement, 10-minute response time for a critical issue. And that means that within 10 minutes, you'll be in direct engagement with an experienced engineer, not just a note taker, not somebody junior. We're talking about 10, 15, 20 years of experience in your software, and you're directly engaged with it. But here's the stat that'll really blow your mind. We put some systems and processes in place, and we measure this very, very carefully, that in 2023, with a commitment that for priority ones, P1 issues, it would be at worst 10 minutes. We found that for both P1 and P2 issues, on average, our response time was 71 seconds.
71 seconds.
Now, we in our materials we just say it's less than 2 minutes, but if you get down to the actual math, it was 71 seconds, and you're in touch with an experienced engineer, And any other service provider you have, Alan, you call your telco or your utilities or whatever, you're still on hold in 71 seconds, right?
Still on hold, going through the
Yeah.
automated messages, trying to find something.
Yeah, yeah. So it's that kind of responsiveness and expertise that says, whoa, I can reduce the level of self-support I'm doing because these guys are 71 seconds away, right?
I can imagine that's such a weight off of your chest of knowing that there's someone there ready to support you.
Yeah.
And you have to be that partner to the business, which means uptime is just so important.
Yeah. It's critical. Downtime is super expensive,
Super exciting.
right? And non-compliance is like off the table, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Now you mentioned, sometimes organizations have to go through these upgrades. And I'm curious, if an organization needs to go through that, can they work and partner with Rimini Street through that upgrade process as well?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So when you pay the vendor for annual support and maintenance, you qualify for whatever new upgrades of that particular system or application or database, and so that comes with it. So that is one of the things that you forego when you stop your agreement, your support agreement with the vendor. However, remember, complex systems, you usually keep them for years and years. You might even be several years behind. But you've been paying for all of those versions you haven't taken advantage of yet. So you have the right to them. So one of the things we help our clients do at the very beginning, during the onboarding, is to create an archive of all of that software, all those versions you're entitled to, so that you have it. And if you later choose, oh, well, I'm way back here on 7, and I'd like to get to 11, we can help you do that because we created an archive that you were entitled to.
Right.
Now, you might ask, yeah, but what if there was a 12, 13, 14 that was created after they left? They don't technically have the right or the entitlement to that. And that may be a point where somebody decides, if there's value there, to go back to the vendor. And that can happen, has happened, and the vendor welcomes them back and says, great, we're happy to have you on this latest release. So again, it gets back to the beginning of what I said. We're providing an alternative and a different financial model, a different engagement model for as long as you want to run it, including incremental upgrades or doing something else, right?
That is fantastic. That is awesome. Scott, last question for me. This is Infotech's biggest conference ever, over 2,000 attendees. I'd love to get your perspective. How's it been so far? How's the reception been? How's it been talking to all the members?
Yeah. I've been really impressed. This is my first time at an Infotech conference. And I was talking with somebody at breakfast this morning, and they said, this first conference, it wasn't that many years ago. It was just 90 people. Well, congratulations, because through the pandemic, you grew and grew and grew, and now 2,000. This is a fantastic event. I've been really impressed with the conversations we've had at our table, and the topics of high interest to all of the IT practitioners that come by, right? So I can tell they're paying attention. I can tell that they are on top of their game, and they're wanting to improve their game, and they've decided this is the place to do it. Several of them have been here, many of those years. So, while I'm just first timer here, I'm really eager to come back and develop some relationships with Infotech, with these clients and practitioners. And I think this is a very good thing for us.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have. I just want to thank Scott again from Rimini Street for talking to us about the products, the clients he's serving, and all the differentiators. My name's Alan Neal, and we will catch you in the next segment.